Welcome. In some denominations, you'd make a trip to the pastor's study for answers to the really tough questions. Well, let's see what we can do here. Hello. Merry meet and blessed be, and welcome back to another session in a very different pastor's study. Yeah. And, you know, one thing that I can definitely point to as a guideline for listening: when a politician or a bureaucrat gets asked a question and the response begins with, "That's a very good question." Well, so often that translates into, "Why did you ask me that?" Or, "That's a question I'm trying to avoid answering." And the quality of the individual will often be revealed by his or her answer. Yeah. I remember an editorial cartoon about Ross Perot when he was running for president. And he was pulled up to a drive-through and for some sort of a burger joint. And the voice coming out of the speaker said, "Would you like fries with that?" And his response was, "That's a very good question, and I'll have to refer that to my staff." Okay. Now, why am I dwelling on that? Well, because so often, regularly, almost daily, guess what the single most important task turns out to be? Asking the right question. And this goes back a long ways. I can remember somebody I knew at the School of Librarianship at the University of Oregon had an example of a story like that. Somebody asked for a map of Oregon. And, well, they weren't really looking for a map of Oregon. What they were looking for was to find out if you could get a marriage license in one county and have it apply in another. Now, got to ask the right question. Now, if you want to know an example in daily life, I can tell you one that you've been seeing on the news every day for quite a few weeks now, and that's the George Zimmerman, Tayvon Martin case. George Zimmerman was found innocent of third-degree murder and manslaughter. Well, guess what? Speaking as someone who was once upon a time a police officer, they didn't ask the right questions. And I'm hoping that the federal investigation that's getting underway is going to ask the right questions, and I hope that people who are in charge of saying what is or is not legal have done something on this. Now, for instance, since I was a baby, there have been two kinds of neighborhood watches. Now, the neighborhood watches that you hear about today, they go back maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 years thereabouts, when neighborhood watches started getting organized. And I'm talking organized. And there's some sort of a police liaison, and there's a schedule, and there are certain specific rules. One of which is, I remember the University of Oregon's version of the neighborhood watch for the dormitory area, and the neighborhood watch in this one town in California that I lived in. You could tell who they were. And most neighborhood watches, you can tell who they are. Some of them will be wearing badges, some of them will have a distinctive cap, some of them will have a vest or a jacket, or something that says that they are part of the neighborhood watch. Armband, patch, something that says that they're operating in an official capacity. The other kind of neighborhood watch is what's known as nosy neighbors. Most neighborhoods have some of them. They're the exact opposite of the ones that don't want to get involved. These are the people who want to get involved all the time. And the police officers know them by name. Okay. So, if there's a neighborhood watch, they have procedures. If a neighborhood watch sees something going on that's not right or seems suspicious, what are they supposed to do? Chances are one of the things that they are not supposed to do is to confront the suspicious person. Well, okay. You see what I mean? These are questions that need to be answered. And not only did the person follow these, did these exist? And what are the consequences for not doing them? Some countries you have a law called, well, basically a law that prohibits exceeding your authority. Sometimes I wish we had that here. I can think of a few captains who would go around yelling "Colonel said," and a few low-level functionaries that would expound on things that were beyond their authority to keep themselves from having to actually do something, etc. Now, enough on that particular case, but let's look at the principles. To get a decent resolution, we have to get an answer. To get the answer, we have to ask the question. To get an answer that is useful, we have to ask the right question. This is one of the reasons why you'll find, well, rabbis and druids are particularly good with this. So are a lot of Wiccan high priests and high priestesses. 2 tricks. One being talking in riddles. Why? Because then you find out if the person is actually understanding what they're being told, if they can understand the riddle you're telling them. And the other is answering a question with a question. That's a couple of the tricks. There are more. But it all boils down to one thing, and this is going to be a part of your training and education, no matter what spiritual path you're on. At least it had better be. And that is, if you want the answers that you will be able to put to good use, Learn to ask the right questions. And so mote it be. Blessed be. I'll see you next week. This has been a presentation of the Wise Ones Net. Merry part and blessed be.